Good morning, students. So I'll continue with the solve exercises. Yesterday I explained to you three programs from the solve programs. That is question number 12, then question number 13, and question number 14. Right. So I'll skip this program. Okay, it's pretty much similar. So from all the four programs that I've explained, so it's quite easy. You can just have a look at it. Okay, I'll come to the next program. Now this is a bit different. Okay, here this this much is the question part, and here is the answer. So uh, here the data members are described, the member functions are also described, and also the format of how the program logic should be written. Okay, so only this much is given. So based on that, you have to understand how to frame the program. Okay, so in exam time also in this format will be given. So based on that, you have to know how to define the class, and then how to define or declare the member functions, and how to write down the main function body. Okay, so understanding this is very important. This is a complete program. Here the objects are also declared. So uh, my suggestion is, okay, uh, get what I explain, you try to understand, and then you run this program. And then you see the output, how it's generated. Okay, since I cannot explain to you in the output format. Okay, so you type this, you can use in your you can type in your mobile phone from Play Store. So there are lots of C++ console editors, you can install that. Okay, and then you can type it, and those who or those who have your own system, laptop, desktop, okay, you can type this program, and then you can run this program, and then see what kind of output you're getting. So in the first part, okay, I'll explain part by part. In the first part, a class clock has the following members. Now keep in mind that in there are some flows in the textbook. I mean, like in the previous one also we saw that e name, s name, that the data members, the variable name is match. Okay, similarly here also, okay, there is an error, but even if the error is there, okay, as per that you have to write like that only. Okay, but for your understanding, you have to correct the errors. Like in this example, the class name is clock. In bold it is written here clock, but if you see in the program, okay, the class name is actually time. Okay, so the class name is not written clock, which should be clock, but here it is time. So we will not follow this class name, but we'll follow this class name. Okay, however, yes, if in the exam time it is mentioned here clock, okay, you write also the class name, change it to clock, like that. So the class name is clock. For explanation, I'll be just using the class name as time. Okay, and then the data members. So here the data members, nothing is mentioned, only that it is written here data members, right? So which means by default these data members, two data members are private by default. So these two variables are, which is of integer type, and minute, which is of integer type, these two are private. So these two are private variables, so which is inaccessible by the object. In the case of the member function, okay, now by default it is supposed to be private, but however three member functions are declared, and there is no classification as which is private, which is public, right? So in that case, here these three member functions are assumed to be public. Okay, because if this is private, okay, then object cannot access the member function, object cannot access the data members. In that case, it will result in error. Okay, there should be at least one member function that should be made public, so which can access the private data members and private member functions. Okay, otherwise the concept of object and classes, okay, gets becomes an error. So here in the member function section, okay, the public member function, read time, the name of the this is the name of the member function, read time, okay. Then the parameters that are passed is of integer type h and integer type m. So in the case of this is like, since the class name is clock or time, so we can idea that it is relating with hours and minutes or seconds, like that, right? So only three input values, like that. So in the case of this, uh, read time, so by that function name we can understand that this will accept the time, right, or enter the time. So in that case, it is to be accepted in the format of hour and minute, so it will accept hour and then minute. If you remember the first program that I taught you in class 11, right, time given in minutes to be converted to time to hours and minutes. So that was a very simple program, but now this one is a bit complex program, right? But however, the concept, the logic is same, okay. Here also the input value is to be accepted in the format of hours and minutes. For that, we the data type, proper data type is integer, not float, because time cannot be converted into decimal format, right? Time cannot be accepted in decimal format, but in the form of integer, okay. So appropriate data type is also required and is entered. So uh, as you know that these three member functions, okay, that not no return type is mentioned, okay, which means that no return type is mentioned, which means that this function, these three functions will not return any value to the main function, okay. The function body will not return any value, which means that the return type will be void, okay. So after execution of the function body, only cout statement or formula logic will be applied, and then cout statement will be uh, run, okay. So which means that there is no return type, okay. So the outcome of that will be when these functions are invoked, the class by the class name time, okay, the return type will be void, okay, which we'll see later on. And then so the second part of the main function is show time. So show time, okay, so whatever time has been entered, it will display, so step by step, right? And the next one is add time. So this will call two parameters. This will pass two parameters, that is time t1 and time t2, okay. So this will again add the new time. Now what this function is about, so it is explained here. Write a program to input two different objects, ft and st, that is first time and second time, okay. So now we have to write a program to input two different objects. So that means now this program will accept two objects. That means this class time will create two objects. The first object, the first object and the second object, okay. So the first object input time and the second object input time. Suppose the first object, as it is in the here in this example, first time, the first object that is ft, okay, will accept suppose like 6 hours and 35 minutes, okay. And then the second object will accept the value of suppose like 3 hours 45 minutes, like that, okay. So we have to calculate uh, time for two durations, first first time and second time, like that, okay. And then next what we have to do is that we have to print your sum. That means we have to calculate the first time plus second time, okay. So it is not just a simple sum of two numbers like 10 plus 10. No, it's not like that, okay. We have to because one is in hours format and the other one is minutes format, right? So a proper formula logic is required, okay. So based on that, okay, so assuming 24 hours clock time, so now we have to create the program based on this logic. So first we start with the class definition, okay. So in the class definition, okay, the class name will be class time, okay. So class time, and then within the body, okay, within the body of the class, uh, the data members will be declared. By default it is private, but no need to write down the access specifier private, okay. So this will be int r and int minute, okay. So here int r comma minute. Okay, so the data members, the variables are declared here. Now after that, these three member functions, so since it has been the access specifier is public, that means the object can access these member functions. Okay, so you can see here that the return type is void. Okay, read time same. Okay, in h comma in m, so this will accept the r format and minute format. Okay, so according to this, we have to enter two values, one in the format of r and one in the format of minutes. Suppose like 1 hour 30 minutes, 2 hours 30 plus 2 hours 30 minutes, like that, right? So so that way we will enter data for two objects. So one object will store one value time and another object will store another value time. Okay, so that's the only way we can create a distinction between two timings, by using the object. Okay, so the class time can create as many objects as you want. Okay, so in this program we create two different objects. Okay, the first object name is ft, the second object name is st. So uh, next is show time. Okay, void and void at time. Okay, time t1, time t2. Okay, so next after that, so this finish the class definition. Okay, now after that, what we have to do, always the program logic is within the main function, right? Okay, so this will get run before the compilation starts, right? This class definition. So when you type the source code and then when you press compile, okay, the compiler will go through these class definitions, the member function definition, the member function declaration, and then start the main function, right? Then the main program execution will start. Okay, so what will happen is, as per always the structure of the C++ program is, okay, you declare the variables, you enter the value, you execute the formula logic, and then you display the output, right? So based on that, what we have to do now, keep in mind that these data members which are declared, this belongs to the class. Okay, this belongs to the class definition. So only the class, since this is a private data member, so only the class uh, within the class. Okay, so even the object of the class cannot access it, only the member function can have access to these data members. Keep that in mind. So this is totally a local variable for the class. Okay, so similarly, so next step is to enter, to declare the variables, right? So for that, if you see why do we need to declare the variables? To store the values, right? To enter the r and then to enter the minutes, right? So for the first object, and then to enter the r and then to enter the minute for the second object, right? So for that we need variables. How many variables do we need, right? So here if you see that in the main function, right here, now this is the class declaration, this is the class name, okay, the user defined data type, and these are the objects. Three objects has been declared. So here the class is creating three objects, which is by the name st, ft, and x. We'll come to x later on. Okay, so ft, st, so first time, second time. Okay, so declared by the class. So after the object it gets declared, only what happens, the compiler allocates memory space for the object and the data members to store the values, in the data members, right? Okay, so memory space gets allocated. Now after that, again you can see here int h1 comma m1. Okay, so these are local variables, so these variables are accessible only within the main function. Okay, keep in mind that this is one part of the program, this is another part of the program, this is another part of the program, right? So these are local variables which is to be used only within the main function. Okay, so now as I said, after the variable declaration, what is the next step? To enter the value, right? So here now this is this can be written in your own way or own style, right? So as per that, cout enter the data for ft, that means you can also write enter the first object data or enter the first object time, so ft, right? Now this is the next cout statement. You know that /n stands for new line, right? Escape sequence character. Okay, so this can be best explained when you do when you perform this practical yourself. You type it and then you run it. Okay, so this will show you the output, how it is to be displayed. Same case for set w and set fill, right? This set w manipulator and set fill, okay, so functions, what it does, it sets the fill width, okay, for the minimum number of characters to be displayed on the output. Okay, so and then that is 78. Okay, and then set fill will display this asterisk. Okay, so have a look at this set, just type this, okay, and then look at the difference. You can change the values also, and you can change, instead of asterisk also, you can use some different symbols, and then you can see what the outcome will be. Okay, so have a look at that. Similarly, you can minimize, you can put more slash n, okay, or means like exclude this slash n, and you see the difference how the output gets generated. Okay, so similarly, cout, enter the time in hours and minutes. So as per the question and as per the member functions, we have to enter this read time. This member function accepts two arguments, that is for hours and minutes, right? So based on that, we are entering the data for hours and minutes, which is, so for that very purpose, these local variables h1 and n1 are declared, so that will uh, that will accept the value and store here h1 and m1. Now after that, what is the next step? To execute the formula, right? But where is the formula? Not in the main function, right? But in another function body, that is in the function definition, right? So in the function definition section, so what did we do? Since it is in another function body, so we have to use the calling function, to call that call function, right? So to invoke that function. So now what we do is that using the object, so now the object, the advantage of object, right? So now using the object, okay, it passes the value using this member function. Okay, so the object data is passed by this member function, by this calling function. Okay, read time. Okay, so now we use this member function read time to pass the value. Okay, since it is integer, right? So keep in mind that the parameter name does not matter, right? Okay, but the parameter type matters, right? So now the value, suppose like 3 hours, um suppose like, yeah, as per here, 6 hours 35 minutes, right? So the value 6 and 35 is passed by this member function, okay, that belongs to this object first time, okay, first time to here. Where is that? Here. Okay, and since this member function belongs to the class, okay, so the scope resolution operator is used, because here only the member function declaration is there, right? The function prototype, so it is outside of the class, so using the scope resolution operator. Okay, and that value gets transferred to here, this variable and this variable. So these are your formal parameters. Okay, and this is your actual parameter. Okay, so the actual arguments pass and receive in this, so that will be your formal arguments. Okay, now after that, the value, suppose like 6 and then 6 and then 35, right? Okay, so 6 hours 35 minutes. So now that value gets passed, gets assigned to the data members, that is hour and minutes. Okay, since this is a private data member, right, and the object cannot directly access it, so now what happened is that the data that was stored in the local variables, which was declared in the main, okay, got transferred and got assigned to the data members of the class. Okay, since we are going to use these data members, right, for execution of the formula. Okay, so that way we can pass the values, okay, to the data members, to the class variables. Okay, so we have seen this in the previous in the previous programs, right? um, Employee emp code equals to e code, like that, right? Okay, so same way that value gets transferred. Okay, So after execution of that, okay, after execution of now the value of the first time gets stored under these variables r and minutes, okay. But for which data? That is for ft, ft, suppose like ft, right? Okay, so next after that, now we read the second data. So enter data for second time. So same procedure is done, okay. After that, now we enter the data, enter the time in hours and minutes, okay. So again, we make use of the variables to enter the data hour and minutes, okay. Now here we are reusing the same variable again. How is it possible, right? Because the variable can store only one data, right? But here what happens is that the value has been passed, right? So now we can reuse this variable again for the second object, okay. So that's why you can see that here the second object st, okay, accesses this member function, okay, calls this member function to pass this value. So this is the calling function. So what happened is that again this calling function calls the same function and then stores a different value, okay, in this variable hours and minutes. But the first value which was stored using the first object ft, and the second value which was stored in here using the second object st, the memory location is different, okay. So by this program you can see that, okay, if you have learned I've told you the concept of function overloading, right? So here you see the benefits of object oriented programming, okay. Oops, features, the program reusability. Here you can see that the same function can be called twice, right? The parameter has been used twice, and then same way this function body, more importantly this function body has been used twice. This same function body, okay, without any changes has been executed twice, can be reused twice, okay. So what happened is that, okay, in real life problems or programs, okay, when the problems become more complex, and then real life programs, okay, able to reuse the same function for different purpose, okay, shortens the program, and then that is what the programming is about, the program reusability, okay. That is one major advantage about this object oriented programming, okay. So you can see that this function body gets executed twice, can be reused twice, okay. So that is the main advantage, okay. So next statement is after reading we have to display, show, right? So now the next function is show time, okay. So now here you can see that after that display time for first object or first time. So again using the object name, right? uh, Using the object only we can access the member functions, right? Now if suppose this this data members was public, okay, if suppose this data member was public, okay, then we don't need to execute all these statements. Instead what we can do is that directly the object can access the data members, right? So instead of writing down all these lines of code, we can just write here ft dot r equals to ft.min equals to, and then st.r equals to st.min equals to, right? Since the data members is public, so the object can directly access and assign the value to r and minute, uh, the first ft.r, right, and then st.r, okay. But since this is a private data member, okay, so we follow this format, okay. So similarly to so that's why the object can access through the using the member function, because the member function is public, right? So in the case of display, ft.showTime, okay, and then secondly st.showTime, so it will execute this function body, okay. This will execute this function body and will display that what value you have entered. That is suppose like 6 hours 35 minutes, 3 hours 45 minutes, so that value will be displayed, okay. Just type this program and then run it, okay, it will show you that format, okay. Now next is to add time. Now another function after that is been displayed to add the sum of the first the first time and the second time. Okay, so now we have to add two objects. Okay, now if if suppose this add time was a private member function, okay, then what will happen is that that calling function would be written within this public member function body, right? But since this is not a private member function, that's why directly by the directly in the main function the object can call this function. Okay, so that's why it is written here. That's why the another object is used. That's why x. Okay. Oh, of course we can write ft also third time, right? But yes, x. Okay, so appropriate object name x dot at time, then ftst. So where's the data stored? Under ft and st, right? Under ft and st, whose data, first object and second object, that is ft and st, right? So in this case, okay, you are seeing that uh, the this function passes this object passes these two objects using this member function. So what happened here is actually you are passing the object as an argument, right? As a function argument. Okay, so here this is passed by value, right? You're passing the object as an argument using this member function. So where does this so where is it passed? To this part of the program, right? Okay, so now at time, okay, time t2. So as per the question format, it was written here like that, right? So now you get to understand what time means, and time t1 and time t2 means. Here now when you say time t1 and time t2, time is the class name, t1 and t2 are the objects name. So the new variables or new objects are declared here, are created or declared here. Why? Because the object ft and st has been passed as an argument, right? So that so the copy of that object ft and st is passed on to these two objects, these two new objects, t1 and t2. Okay, so now what happens is that, okay, inside this function body, okay, the main formula logic to add the t1 and t2 is written, right? So now for that purpose you are declaring another local variable so that it will after the formula gets executed, it will store the value for hours and minutes. Okay, so in the case of this one, hr is equal to t1 dot r plus t2 dot r, right? Now what does this mean? In the case of this is the object name, this is r is what? The data members, right? But you know that an object cannot access private data members, right? An object cannot access private data members. But in the case of this object in the case of this object that is declared here, okay, is has been created by this member function, right? So object as a function argument. Okay, so what happened is that this object this object s1 s2 or ft st and this member function, this t1 t2, all belongs to the class, right? So when an object of this class is passed to the member function, okay, is passed to the member function which also belongs to the same class, that is the time, that is they all belong to the class time, right? Okay, so what happened is that the data member that is the private data member, or that is the r and minute, right? uh, it can be accessed using by this object. It can be accessed by this object, that is t1 and t2, inside the member function body. Okay, inside the member function body by using the object name with the dot operator. Okay, so inside the member function, okay, because this object has been passed as a function argument. Okay, so now what happened is that it can be accessed inside the member function body by using the dot operator, writing down the object name and then the data members. Okay, so now it can directly access the value, suppose like 3 hours 35 minutes, right? Like that. Okay, so t1 dot r means the value 3 hours plus 35 minutes, or in the case of this one, T1 T2, right? Sorry. Okay, so that means 3 hours plus 6 hours plus 3 hours, like that. Okay, so similar in the case of the minutes, right? 35 minutes plus 45 minutes, like that. Okay, so and then after that, this if test expression, okay, statement, if statement, okay, test condition will be evaluated. Okay, now just I've already told you this in the that calculate time, right? Okay, so just try to you just try to understand this program logic. Okay, if mi greater than equal to 60, right? So r plus, that means r is equal to r, okay, into m divided by 60, like that. Okay, so you have used that arithmetic operator, right, division and modulus, where the remainder is taken as the output, right? So you execute this program statement and try this try run method. Okay, execute this try run method and then you see what outcome it is. Okay, since I cannot practically run this and show it to you. Okay, so you type this program and then do the try run, and then you will understand this program. Okay, so I hope that you have understood this program. Okay, so best thing is you type this program and then run it. Okay, and then see what the difference that you get. Okay, so that will be for today. Yeah.